I'm going to start off by saying this. The more I learn about day trading, the more problems I run into, the more progress I make. Day trading to me now feels like one big video game. And let me tell you this, I'm not the biggest fan of video games. And let me tell you why. Imagine you're playing a video game and it was just newly introduced to you. You see the like controller for the first time, and you press start and you're going through it and you're like, oh, this is cool, this is a little weird, a little strange. What does this button do, what does that button do? And you're going along, and then bam, you failed. Let's just say you failed. And you're like, what just happened? And you're like, okay, that was weird, let's try this again. So you start over, you use some silly buttons, you know what a few kind of do, but you don't really have like any structure of what to do. So you're going along, you see the same barrier, and you get over it. You're like, okay, got that down. And then there's another thing that comes up to you, and you're like, okay, let's do the same thing to get around it. You do the same thing, but the other thing comes at you, and bam, you failed. That is how day trading feels like to me. You get to one level, you get introduced to it, you start learning concepts, you're like, okay, like I know I've heard of you, you're really complicated, but I feel like I can, I could take this on and things are gonna go great. We're not gonna run into any problems. And it's like you're gambling at first, and then you realize the more you gamble, the more you lose. So now you gotta like take a step back and ask yourself, okay, what am I doing wrong? And then you learn more stuff, and then you're like, okay, this is starting to make sense. You're trying to put it into action, and then you get to a level where it like semi difficult things to deal with. You get bruised up a little bit along the way, just a little bit along the way. And I would say in regards to trading, that's probably like, you know, you paper trade or something and you see losses here and there, probably more at the beginning. Well, it depends. If you're lucky, you might have a few wins. You're like, oh my gosh, this is great. But I feel like that's actually the worst thing that could happen, because then you're gonna get cocky. You're gonna boost your ego and be like, yeah, I got this. This was so easy. I don't know why anyone else like struggles with this. And then you soon realize, oh, yeah, I don't know why that happened. And so then you got to go back to like phase one, where you learn, you do research, you do all this and that. And then you're like, okay, this is a little complicated, because you find out that people have different styles of how they trade, and you got to figure out what you want to do. That takes a while. And then once you find out what you want to do, there's smaller sectors within what you want to do. And now you have to separate that. And then you're like, once you are finally able to do that, you have some type of foundation, then you can move forward. You take the little hits and here and there, and then you reach big boss. You reach big boss. And you're like, okay, I have my foundation down. I'm not gambling anymore. I have somewhat of a plan. And then let's say big boss is like a prop from this account. You take on an evaluation account. And you're like, okay, let's do this. So, you step up to big boss, and you put in a few jabs here and there. Okay, you gained a little money here and there. And, you're getting that confidence boost, and you get a little self-centered, I would say. You're like, oh, okay, like I got this. So then you start sizing up, You start taking more trades, and some of your rules start to go, like, leave the door. And you're like, I don't need rules. Like, I get this, I understand this. And so, you start throwing jabs at Big Boss. And now it's Big Boss's turn to attack. And he crushes you. He crushes you completely. Your confidence was up here. It was up here, and now it's down here. Yeah. And you go through that many, 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 many times. And you're like, okay, we got to take a step back and break things down to figure out where things are going wrong. And you realize you're too emotional, your psychology isn't good. You realize that, the method or the plan that you were using, wasn't as structured as you thought. And so now you got to work on that. Realize a lot of things. And then, things start piecing together in a better way. You start seeing progress that you clearly can't go back on. And after months, maybe years, you're like, this is great. But then, since you're piecing it a little bit at a time, it's like you have little problems. And once you get past those problems, they start to get bigger. They're different, but they're bigger and they're more complicated to fix. That is where I'm at. I feel like I keep reaching Big Boss and, trying to pass these evaluations, and I get close, but more problems keep coming up. I realized that my structure wasn't perfect, that I could stick to, that I could clearly tell someone, okay, this is what I do here, here, and here. And then I fix that, and now I feel stuck because, I have a structure together, but like how to execute it properly is where things get a little iffy. And I'm trying to ask myself the question, why is that? Why is it that, I have a structure, but when it comes to executing it, I can't properly say, like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing, like, for this specific, structure that I have. Yeah. And I realized that I kept crashing out, and it was so hard to answer this question because I wasn't logging anything. I didn't have journal entries. Like, I had my markings in the market, but not having anything to go along with that to say, okay, this is why I did this on this time frame. This is why I entered here. This is why I didn't enter here, why I didn't trade today. Like, I'm just back testing this and going over things like repeatedly. Some days are different than others, and I'm stressing myself out because, like, I don't know why that is, because my rules aren't as tight as I thought they were. And it's hard to say what's going wrong when I don't have anything logged of what's going wrong. So yeah. That is where I am at. And it made me think about how the stock market is just one big video game. You come into it as a fresh beginner and you gamble, and you don't have any rules, don't have any structure. You just like have one goal of, at first I feel like your one goal is, learn how to make income using the stock market. And then you realize that, when your emotions get to the best of you and you don't have any structure, you're basically playing roulette. We had some technical difficulties, but we are now back. But yeah, you're basically playing roulette. And I feel like I'm close. Like, I wholeheartedly believe I'm going to pass this evaluation by the end of the summer. And I tried back testing. I did some back testing, and I journaled, and I have my journal entries, and it was so nice just looking at how I go about my process. Like, I know in my head how I go about it, but when days don't work, and it's not like, oh, the market just went against you and you see why it didn't work, you're like, okay, we know not to do that next time. So yes, that is where I'm at, and we're gonna get past this just like we've gotten past every other level. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about that experience. And I want to know, like, leave a comment down below if anyone else has gone through that or gone through a similar kind of realization of, like, every new step as you move forward is going to get harder, and you're going to have to figure it out. There's always going to be something new. There's always going to be a new problem. Like, going into it with that mindset, how does that make you feel? Because now I feel like I'm prepared. Like, I know once I get past this issue, there's going to be something else. So, yeah, that is where I am at. I'm tired. Too many problems, but they're good problems. They're good. So, yeah, I'm going to go on this run. I'm going to get on the charts. And I will see y'all later. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.